Oi, oi, and welcome to another Budget Guitar Show. Now, unfortunately, I'm not here tonight to do the regular live stream here on a Sunday. So instead, I've decided to mine another clip from the fantastic chat I had with John Robson, The Lamb, and Steve Cassidy Guitar. And in this one, we discuss our most disappointing piece of gear. Hope you enjoy it.
I think it's Johnny's turn next, and we're going to switch over now to the most disappointing piece of gear that you've ever owned.
That has to be a guitar. And sorry, Fazli, Max Music, but after years of owning it and playing it, it has to be that, what's it called? The Exotic Wood Telecaster. Now that is up in one of these boxes that I have above me because I have loads of guitars in here. Now I loved the look of it, and when I first ordered it, or when I first ordered one, it looked like the packaging had been used for football practice by UPS, and the back of the guitar looked like somebody taken a steel toe cap boot to it and kicked it. So I got that sent back. Oh no, sorry, they didn't want it back. They refunded me. I kept it, but they started sending me guitars to review. Anyway, I eventually sold that one, and one of my subscribers asked me if there was one guitar I could have kept, which one would it have been? And I said that one, because I loved how it looked. So they very kindly bought me one, and I got it here and everything was fine with it. The action was a bit high. But then I decided to take it out and actually use it at a rehearsal. And the pickups in it are terrible. They really are terrible. It's very, very tinny. There's not very much bottom end. And the feeling of it is like it's a toy guitar. Now, yeah, I know it's only... what was it at the time, 60, 70 pounds, you know, so it would need totally upgrading.
So I think you've already answered this, Johnny, but I'll like we were talking about when we were going for our favourite pieces of gear, what is it that you don't like about it? I think you've already answered this. What you do like about it is the way it looks.
Yeah. It was one of those where, you know, I saw it. When I first ordered one, I saw it online and I thought, that looks really good. That stands out. That's the kind of thing I want, the difference. I really like that. So I bought one and started playing it. Of course, I knew no better. For a £60, £70 guitar at the time, it was really good. Mm-hmm. But since I've had things like the Harley Bentons and you know, the Finnekers and stuff like that, and even my old Squire, which I put back together, I've really seen the error of the ways of the fact that, yeah, a £60 guitar, if you're going to buy it for a young kid who maybe is going to pick it up, noodle about with it and then forget about it 6 months later, you haven't lost a lot of money. But as an instrument that you could go out and gig with, I don't think it is one of those.
Have you seen a series of videos featuring a guy called Scott Pawley?
No.
He is the guitar player in a band called Rumours of Fleetwood Mac.
Oh yeah.
Who the lead singer in that is actually Jess Harwood, who's one of the backing singers with Classic Rock Show. By the way, if they ever come anywhere near you, go and see them. But yeah, he bought a second-hand, a used Harley Benton ST20.
Oh yeah, I did see that video actually. Yeah.
And he's playing stadiums with it.
Mm-hmm.
And all he's done is change the output socket for one of those. Is it Nutric silent ones? You know, got it professionally set up, takes it out, plays it in stadium gigs.
I've heard of one other artist doing that as well, and I can't remember for the life of me who it was, but same thing.
Andy Partridge, XTC. he uses Harley Benton now, and it's one of the cheap ones.
Yep.
Even Mike Rutherford on the last Genesis tour was playing a Squire, Bullet Squire. There's a man that has no problem affording any guitar he wants. Remember that. I agree with you as well. The pickup thing, like I was saying about that tribute model Les Paul I had, everything about it was gorgeous except the pickups, and it makes the guitar unplayable. It just destroys it.
Why don't you like and subscribe to the Budget Guitar Show? It's free and helps me thrive. Watch the videos and comments and keep the show alive.
Because if you can't turn it up because it's microphonic or something, what's the point of it?
It's one thing paying a couple of £100 for a guitar and thinking, well, I can mod it. When you pay for a 4-figure sum for a Gibson, then
it's the other thing. It's got Gibson on the headstock. Do you really want to change the pickups because you're just devaluing the thing now? And it's
well, to counter what I was saying. Like I had the Aria Telecaster, the Legend, and I got this back in the late 90s, and it was fine. It played. It was a cheap £60 thing. It was fine. It played, and then a couple of years ago, when Fender bought out their Joe Strummer road-worn Telecaster for like £1,800, and they were saying, "Oh, the pickups are Joe Strummer voiced," So I did a video where I compared my £60 thing playing the same opening notes of London Calling, and mine, this £60 cheap thing, sounded exactly the same as their guitar in their video. No difference at all.
It's interesting when you get like really expensive artist guitars and signature guitars and signature pickups and signature pedals and things like that, because it's none of the top records that these people got famous for were made with anything other than stock instruments, or they might be slightly modified. But Eric Clapton played a Stratocaster, and whatever was in it that was the guitar, and then it goes to other things. And it's sort of cart before the horse. It's sort of the other way around in effect.
How can you get a Joe Strummer voiced set of pickups when he used a 66 Telecaster and that was what was in it?
Exactly, yeah. There were no one starts their career going, right, I need my own signature pickups, or I'm just not going to be able to get my sound.
What is your sound? I don't know yet.
It kind of reminds me, I was having a conversation with my dad yesterday. He's a guitarist too. He's a bit of a jazzer. We're both big fans of Glaswegian jazz guitarist Jim Mullen. Don't know if anybody's familiar with him.
Oh, yes, yeah.
He's a phenomenal player, and he's kind of known for getting this just amazing tone out of it's an Aria Pro. Is it an FA 71? I think is the model. And it's just like you say, it's just a stock model, but he's been playing it for decades, and it's never been a cash grab. Like, you can't buy a Jim Mullen signature or anything like that. But if you want to get his guitar and his tone, just go on eBay, look for an FA 71. You can get one for about sort of, I don't know, £400 or £500 or something like that, and they're pretty great guitars. Well, he makes it sound great anyway.
Anyway, I think you might just have boosted the buy it now price on Aria Pro 2. So I'm going to go now with my most disappointing buyer's remorse kind of piece of gear that just didn't live up to the admittedly quite high expectations I had for it. My two favourite guitar tones, if I had to be pushed, would be a nice kind of fruity neck single coil, because it's Gilmore and it's Hendrix and it's Stevie Ray Vaughan and all that kind of stuff. I mean, I know it's not a single coil, but the pickup in this guitar does a very good version of that when you back the volume off. Good sort of Texas blues sound. So I like that in a guitar, and I also like a vintage voiced bridge humbucker. I don't like guitars that look too flashy. I don't like the Liberace footballers' wives look. And then back in 2015. It's like somebody at PRS had a picture of me on the desk and said, let's build a guitar for that fat lad. And they came out with a PRS Vela, which is like a vintage voiced Starler humbucker at the bridge, and that sort of slightly de-almond kind of looking neck single coil. And I wanted one. I was on the bones of me backside financially at the time, and there was no way I could afford those sort of price tags. But life has been kind in the recent years, and I got to the point, I think in 2022, where I could afford one. So I pulled the trigger on it. Got it used on eBay, and I've been, there's that time lag, isn't there? But when you've kind of paid for it and it's ordered and it's on its way to you, and you keep checking the tracking app to see, is it going to come today? And when it actually arrives. So I don't know about you, but in that sort of in that no man's land period, I'm always I'm looking for. I should do the Steve Cassidy kind of sound effect there, shouldn't I? I was looking for all the reviews on it and all the demonstrations on it, and I can't tell you how many times I watched the PRS guy, what's he called, Brian Ewald, doing his demo of it, and it sounded gorgeous. It was just a fantastic, everything that I wanted, and no dot inlays, no racing pigeons, didn't look too flashy, fantastic. And then it turned up and I plugged it in, and I spent a good couple of weeks really, really, really wanting to fall in love with the sound that this guitar made. I just couldn't. It was just thin and scratchy, and the bridge humbucker it had no guts. You'd kind of, I want a bit of sustain out of a humbucker, and it just would die. And the neck pickup, which I'm thinking, well, it's not a P90, but it's going to be somewhere close to a P90. No, it was like just the thinnest, kind of trebliest, lacking in bottom end, lacking in any kind of guts sound that was imaginable. I just did not like that guitar. I would have it on the stand there, and I'd look at it, and it was a gorgeous looking thing. Slightly offset, but not in an ugly Jazzmaster kind of way. And just thinking, yeah, that's gorgeous. And since I'd had a USA PRS many years before that, they've changed the logo so that the logo now on the USA ones is in gold, and it just looks such a gorgeous guitar. And it was just a crushing disappointment every time I picked it up and played it. And as I said, I had it about 2.5 weeks, and something happened in that couple of weeks where the resale value of them kind of, just went up by a couple of £100. They were just kind of fetching a bit more money on eBay. So I thought, right, I'm cashing out of this, and got rid of it. It was then I replaced that with the other PRS, the S2 Standard 24, which was a lovely guitar, but sadly my hand injury meant that I couldn't get on with it anymore. But that would be my most disappointing piece of gear. That said, it did deliver me a little bit of a profit when I moved it on. So it's not. If we're going to go for what did I like about it, that would be the thing I liked about it. So, any of you lads ever played a Vela? Any thoughts on them?
No. Is that the one, John, that you had that was kind of wine red with a black pickguard, looked a little bit like an SG, sort of cosmetically? Not that one, no.
Yeah, well, they both did. The S2 Standard 24 had that sort of look about it, and the Vela did as well.
Right, okay, that's where I'm confused. Carry on. All good.
No, I've said my piece about that.
It had an interesting bridge on the Vela, wasn't it? It was like a Telecaster bridge, but split 3 and 3, wasn't it? It was like
and it looked like a string through, but it didn't. It was actually a top loader, because it just the strings just kind of hooked into like a cavity underneath the bridge.
They did some lovely bursts on those, didn't they? I'm a sucker for a tobacco burst.
Yeah. But yeah, that was the disappointing one for me. So, Lammy, I believe it's your turn.
It's here. I've got it here. It's all the way over here because I never. It's this. this sort of Liberace footballer's wife. So this is an Ibanez RG970 QMZ 2014. You have to say 2014, I think, because I only made them for 2 years. And it's not the whole guitar. You can probably guess what's coming. It's this. It's not quite a Floyd Rose. It's an Edge Pro 02, and it's such a pain in the backside to maintain, to restring, that this guitar just doesn't get a look in it. Every now and again I feel like, oh, okay, if I spend the hour it's going to take to do it, then I'll be able to have whammy fun. When it's all set up, it stays perfectly in tune, and it's good for about a week. And then it just sort of somehow drifts out of tune, I guess the strings stretch or whatever. But what I really hate about it is that and I suppose this is maybe the case of all Floyd Roses, but to me it seems easier on this one. If you're familiar with Floyd Rose normally, you tighten them from the back, and there's a rod that sort of screws and pushes a block that then traps the string in there. Well, these ones have got these tiny little sort of strange shaped little metal hammer pieces that sit in the top, and there is no cavity coming back. The Allen screw is there, so it's all in this one little unit. So what you do is you take your strings off and you give the guitar a good clean, and then you've got to clean the back, and they all fall out. And now you've got to find the tiny little bit of black metal on your inevitably dirty deep shag carpet. You'll never find them all. They're like plectrums and cigarette lighters. They go to that extra dimension that we all get reunited with when we die. And the problem there is then that you have to go on eBay and find the one sort of old Ibanez wizard that's got a stock of them, and you have to order them and wait for them to arrive. So now it's taken you 2 weeks to restring the thing. The other thing is with the way this works is, so you chop your ball end off, so to speak, and you put the end of the string in there, and then you tighten up with this Allen key. And because all this is in the way, it's not like with a Floyd Rose you can get at the back, and you can kind of get a bit on it. But with this, it goes down in there at an angle. And what happens is the hammers wear out, and they won't hold the high E. So by the time you've ordered your spare parts and you've rebuilt the bridge and you get all the strings and you get to the high E, you tune it up to pitch and it will let go and it will just fly out of the block. And of course, you've already stretched that to the maximum, so now you've got to go find another E string. The only solution is to go and buy another bit of black hammer, because what happens is they wear out almost every time. And it's the high E that goes, when I bought this, it didn't have a high E string on it. And the guy said, oh, yeah, it just snapped. He was lying. He knew. There was a reason this was a good deal. He knew what it was. At the moment, it's okay.
Was it a good deal?
Was it? I like it. It's pretty. I mean, you've got the old flame maple there, and they do a lovely job of the burst and everything. And it's like a 5-piece neck with, 2 maple bits in the middle. And that sort of, the craftsmanship on the woodwork is amazing. It goes right through the headstock with the sort of stripes there. And you've got a nice contour, sort of everything's soft around there and everything. This thing is... and it's okay. I had to put some pickups in it. Again, I got it wrong, and this has got one of the most out of phase sounds I've ever heard, which is actually very useful. I've used that quite a lot actually, because what I did, I put it in, it's an incredibly out of phase sound, and if it's quite good for adding that little bit of, when a little bit of secret sauce when you're producing the record and you're going to mix and you think, I could just use a little bit of high-end tinkliness, that through a bit of delay and a bit of flange in the background is sort of a nice thing to have in your palette. But God, I hate restringing it. It's the worst thing, because I do it every time. I say, I'll give it a good clean, and I do that and it just goes, and that's it. And it's going to cost me money every time. I hate it. I just can't stand the thing. Who thought that was a good idea? What were you on?
I had a mate, about 15 years ago. He had one of those Steinberger. Is it Steinberger or Steinberger? I always forget. But you know the one, the headless ones.
Yeah.
The headless ones. And do you remember when they had this thing called the trans trem? Where it, like,
Yes.
you could use the tremolo and you could kind of, and it would lock. So you could, as you move the tremolo arm down, the strings descended in pitch equally, and you could lock it off at a kind of drop tuning, right? And, you know, he used to use it, he used to gig with it. The only way he could keep that guitar functional, because there was obviously all kinds of mechanical shenanigans with the bridge and everything, was his uncle owned a metal fabrication company, and he had to get his uncle to kind of make these spare parts because they just weren't available.
Yeah.
Because it was a discontinued model, and you know, it was just he had to you know, use family connections to get those bits and pieces actually made out of lumps of metal. So he was lucky in that regard, but you know, it's a similar story to what you're telling there. What do you like about it then, Lammy?
I love the way, I mean, the actual guitar, the way it looks is great. It plays great. I like it when this is set up. I like the Floyd Rose floating, because I quite like a lot of the Jeff Beck sort of style stuff. I don't play like that way often, but this will do it, because it's that sort of thing where I, to be honest, even though I mentioned Jeff Beck, I prefer to float a 2-point American trem to do it than this. But you can do that thing where you're sort of supporting the bar here, and then the pinky goes up there, and you can play it to tune, you know, to notes and things like that, because it's that light, and you can do the flick and the warble, and you can dive bomb it and it'll come back and tune. I love all that. I just don't like the 3 weeks of agony it takes to get there. But yeah, I mean, apart from that, it's great. I had it ages, and I was thinking about, I would quite like to sell it. It's that guitar. You know, if someone made me a reasonable offer for it, it would go. But I never put it up for sale. I don't know, maybe I'm a glutton for punishment or something. But it's like, if you've ever had an incredibly attractive girlfriend that's also very high maintenance, it's that. You know, you look at it and you go, "Oh, I do like having it around." But every time I take you out for dinner, it's going to hurt. It's that sort of thing.
Okay, Mr. Cassidy, what is your most disappointing piece of gear?
Yeah, I couldn't really think of anything. So, just off the cuff. Probably not the worst, but the most recent one in memory. Since we said Fasley was probably the best, that'll also go for the worst as well. Johnny will know about this one. Their Firebird sort of, what do they call it? I can't remember the model name, but Fasley Firebird style thing. And It's not disappointing because it wasn't a great guitar. It's disappointing because I really, really liked it. You ever go, Johnny?
You put a lot of effort into wanting to like that guitar. I remember the video.
Yeah, like it's so much about it, the kind of stuff that I wouldn't normally like on paper, particularly like the flatter radius and the Gibson scale length. Was it 24.75 or something? But yeah, I thought I wouldn't like that, and it was set up terribly, but that's the one, Johnny. When I got it set up, it was I got it playing really, really good, but there was just so much fret buzz, high and low frets, and with the price of it, it's just never going to be worth getting sorted. So I just I returned it, but I really like the sound of the pickups on it as well. It was my first experience with these sort of, I don't know if they're mini humbuckers or if they're specific Firebird
Yeah, they
ones,
are.
or if they're just Fasley's version of them. But yeah, those pickups, they were kind of microphonic and really harsh and jangly and trebly, but I absolutely loved them. So I wanted to keep it, but like I said, it wasn't worthwhile. So that's probably the biggest disappointment, because I liked everything else, even the colour.
Well, you saw what happened with this one. You know, when it came, the neck was actually bust, and you can still see sort of on there where my pal repaired it. And yeah, it was all down to the fact that the box that it came in wasn't shallow enough for the angle of the headstock. So in transit, it had obviously snapped and come right off. But yeah, they gave me this one, and I had it repaired. And now I think it's great. I really do. I like it. So, yeah, it's just one of those that I had to have really because Steve Jones had one. But yeah, I do agree that they could have spent a bit more on it, but I think they had a lot of problems with them, especially with the necks breaking. So I think that's why in the end they did stop making them. But I like it.
Yeah,
They went
it's a
through
shame.
they went through a phase, didn't they? Fasley were doing it where they were made, there's the Thunderbird, and they made a Beatle bass because I had one at one point. They had the violin bass, Paul McCartney bass. They also had for about £90 a clone, if you will, of an Ovation, with all the what is it, like all the leaves and everything over it. And I looked at that and I thought, how are you doing it for that price? And when I went to Backs and I spoke to them about it, they said, we weren't. The quality just wasn't good enough. That's to make these sort of iconic guitars for £150-200. It was basically not doable because the attention they needed to get it right, you just couldn't do it in that amount of money. I think that's why they sort of stopped all of them. They had one that they did have that some friend of mine bought, was that they did an Ingve style Strat that was actually had the scalloping and the brass nuts and everything like that. So they were really trying to copy the authenticity of them, but I think they just had whatever factory was doing that for them. They just had quality problems.
Yeah, the early ones weren't very good. The early models that they had, I think Rick actually told me himself that they'd changed manufacturer, so they wouldn't be making any more of these things, and of course that then gave way to the Outlaw, the Sheriff, and then of course they moved on with the Finneker, and now they've got the Sandshark and Sea Wave, which are higher end.
Yeah, with the Fasleys, I think the takeaway is with where they're at now, from the experience of me giving it as an example of the best and the worst. That's probably just say they're hit and miss. But I think where they're at from the experience with Rick as well, what he said, like I remember when Bax first got in touch through Johnny and recommendation, and they were asking what guitars I'd like to check out. They were trying to sort of get their new ones out, and I was like, you know what, I really fancy having a look at these Ingve style ones that you're talking about, Lammy, the scalloped ones, because never tried a scalloped guitar before and thought that'd be pretty cool to check out for the channel and whatnot. But when I asked for them, Rick said they're not too pleased with the quality of them as is. They're going to get discontinued, so would rather you didn't look at them, sort of thing, which is a shame. Yeah. And then with the Firebird as well, talking about that experience, Johnny had seen your review on it and you had the headstock break and that kind of thing, and then I was reading the reviews on it, and there was a couple of people who had headstock breaks, and then there was some people said the electronics didn't work. So like when I got it out of the box, I think I did an unboxing video. When I got out of the box, I was like, yes, headstock's on it, electrics are working, here we go, this is it. And then it was just like, didn't play too well. So yeah, sorry, I'm just going back to it being disappointing again.
Yeah, their Rickenbacker was the same. Their Rickenbacker clone was the same. But when I said I wanted to check one of those out, they sent me one. I got it out of the box. It looked fantastic, but the bridge pickup didn't work. And I thought, well, I'm not going to take this apart and start soldering bits and pieces and God knows what, because I've got to send it back, you know.
Just to sort of defend Fasley for a second, Bax, I'm thinking I don't think they've been making, well, I could be wrong, but I don't think they've been making the Fasleys as long as like Harley Benton's been doing it, or some of these other brands. Could be wrong. I think they're still kind of finding their way, and trying out different factories and that kind of thing.
Well, the honourable thing with them is that when the product turns out to be a bit crap, they drop it.
Yeah,
they don't carry on selling it, and it's I don't think I think we were having this conversation with Rob Chapman at the thing. I don't think really you can get a decent guitar for under £100. There's gonna be some, like I had the pink hot rod. I don't remember that was just the one pickup, just pink thing, and it was great because it was pink, and I gave that away. But the tuners on that, they were like, there was like sand in them or something. They were just so crunchy, and they broke quite. One of them bust sort of fairly soon after. And there's always something like when they sent me. I went through quite a lot of their acoustic range, and anything that was like £150 plus was fine. Anything under like the £100 mark was, I wouldn't really give this to. But the problem there is that you think, well, that's for someone who's just first learning. If you have to learn on that, you'd give up. It's that sort of thing. That bracket of trying to get me a guitar for under £100 it's almost you get what you pay for. You can't blame them for trying to hit that price. At the same time, but it's interesting. The Beatle bass that I had, again, they were doing that thing, weren't they? They were trying to hit a market. So obviously they had the Rickenbacker for the Lens. They had the Paul McCartney bass. That bass was, again, it was the only one they had. They didn't have any more, and they only let me have it because I was using it on the stream with a friend of mine. That's got, it's a big channel. So they were happy to sort of accommodate me because we were playing Beatles songs, and it was the right thing. And that was a great bass. The problem there was, it's the Hofner violin bass is what they're copying. The way the bridge is on that guitar, if you hit the bass hard or you try and play it with a pick in a modern style, the strings bounce off the bridge because there's almost like an arch top, because it's a hollow bass. They just sit over a little bit of wood, really. That's all it is. Just three. The way the bridge works is it's a straight piece of wood with 4 slots in it, and then they put a little shim of metal where that's how you intonate it, is which slot you put the shim of metal in. That's all that bridge was. So but obviously you said people complained, they said, it's unplayable. It's like, well, sometimes you've got to adjust your playing style to an instrument. Yep. Those violin basses aren't designed to be hammered, but if you get too many complaints, I guess it's too much to deal with. But
that said, I just got the Sea Wave that I wanted in green, and I tell you what, that is a fantastic piece of kit for the money. It really is. Okay, they're £250 at the moment. They might go back up to £290, but I got this one as a B stock. But there's nothing wrong with it, and it sounds good. The pickups in it are good. The bridge, it's a Wilkinson bridge. Technically, I don't like those WOV10 bridges, but it functions and it holds its tune. And I've used it in rehearsals. I'm going to use it live. It is really good. So where they are now is actually, I think, really, really good. Yeah. Where they were, maybe at the time, some of them are good. Their Les Paul copies are good at Fasley. Do like those. I do like their SG copy. But as you were saying, Lammy, when you want to get something that's under £100, I would say more to the £98 mark.
Yeah, the more you can spend, the better, isn't it? Yeah.
The Outlaw Sheriff, great. That's up there. I still use that. That's brilliant, But err on the side of anything. To me, I would say anything £90 and over is going to be half decent.
Yeah. Or just buy something that should cost 150, 160, but get it used or get a B stock. That would be.
And there you go. I hope you enjoyed the next part of that little chatter. The live stream will be back next week, and of course I'll be back on Wednesday with some more content. If you have enjoyed this video, please remember to give it a thumbs up, and if you're new here, subscribe. You might enjoy what you see on this channel. We've got loads of really good content to come. Well, must thank our budget backers who are right here. Thanks, guys. Just remains for me to say, stay safe, stay sane, keep rocking, and oi oi, guys.